guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you the story about my crazy ex-roommate who I lived with about 4 or 5 years ago now, I think. So at the time I lived with this roommate and another roommate who I had actually been really close friends with for about 2 years at the time. So the reason that I wanted to tell you guys this story is because it was one of the craziest experiences I've ever been through, and when I think about it now, it's honestly just like laughable. I know that other people have gone through some crazy experiences with roommates before, so if any of you have gone through something like this, know that you're not alone. So before I get into it, I wanted to let you guys know that I'm not going to be naming any names, and I'm also leaving out some information that could possibly help to identify who this person is. I don't associate with this ex-roommate anymore, or the other roommate for that matter, and I have moved away from that area. I now live in Portland, Oregon. So I feel like since I moved away, it's okay to tell the story because I'm not going to be using any information that would identify who this person is. And I'm not telling this story to offend anyone or hurt anyone's feelings. I just wanted to share my experience with you guys because it was a really rough experience that I've been through. Okay, so I want to get into the actual story now. So I lived with this roommate in a 3-bedroom apartment with another roommate who had actually been a close friend of mine for 2 years. And when we moved into this house, I invited the crazy ex-roommate to move in with us because I thought that she was a nice girl. The roommate who was my friend of 2 years didn't even know this other roommate. She met her when she moved in with us, basically. So the first thing that this roommate would do is that she would steal my clothes without asking me. I actually lived downstairs in the basement while the other roommates lived upstairs, and I would kind of use the basement area that was not the bedroom part of the basement as my closet. So I had like tons of clothes at the time because at the time I actually sold vintage clothing. So I had tons of clothes on like closet rods and hanging from like the ceiling and stuff. Like there was tons of clothes down there, and I realized that she was stealing my clothes without asking because one, I would see her little sister wearing my clothes, and I was just like kind of shocked when I realized that she was wearing my clothes. Like it didn't make any sense to me. Like why would she just take my clothes without asking? But I didn't say anything because I didn't want to cause like any weird tension. Another time I was actually riding in her car with her, and I turned around to look at the back seat, and I literally saw like a stack of my clothes, like dresses and tops of mine from my closet that she grabbed without even asking me. I never said anything about it to her then either because I was afraid of confrontation and I just didn't want to have like any drama in the house. So to this day, I never said anything about it to her. I think that when she saw me notice my clothes in the back seat, she ended up putting most of them back. But to this day, there's several pieces of clothing that come to mind that I had when I lived there at the time that have like disappeared and I've never gotten back. And a lot of those pieces were favorite pieces of mine. So my roommate didn't have a job. She did when we moved in together, like when she first moved in, she had a job, but then she lost that job. So in order to pay for rent, since she was signed on for like the 6-month lease, like all 3 of us were, she would babysit. So she was supposed to be babysitting this little boy, but whenever he would come over, she would end up like going to her room or going in off and doing something else, and I would be left with watching the baby. I didn't really mind this too much at the time because I love babies and he was super adorable. So I would watch him anyway, but the problem was that I was in classes at the time. Like I had a full-time job and I was taking 2 online classes. So a lot of the time I'd be sitting there doing homework while watching him, even though she was being paid for watching him and she was supposed to be watching him, but she didn't. So I would end up having to watch him. So this was obviously very frustrating because I wasn't being paid for watching him. She was being paid for watching him even though she wasn't. And I never said anything about it then either because I just kind of like, for reasons that I won't go into, I felt bad for her and I knew that she needed the money to pay for rent, and like, I guess in the end, it was money that was going towards paying for our rent. So I kind of just let it go and never said anything about it. Something that really bothered me that she did was that a few months into her living with my close friend and I, they ended up taking a road trip together to visit my friend's parents who lived in Oregon. And what I thought was weird was that they weren't even very close. They only met each other when she moved in, but they ended up going on this trip together and not even inviting me at all to go. Like, they literally didn't even tell me or give me a heads up. They just went on this road trip together, which I thought was really weird. And it also hurt my feelings because I was the one who had introduced them, and they really weren't like that good of friends. Besides the fact that they went on a trip together, my two roommates started spending a lot more time together and like watching movies in the living room and not really like inviting me to watch with them, and just like hanging out like in each other's rooms without me. And I mean, I'm not like a baby, so I knew of course that like they were going to form a friendship if we were all living together, but it was the fact that they were like purposefully always leaving me out of things that I realized that something kind of weird was going on, because there was no reason not to be including me in everything. So during the time of the three of us living together, my friendship with my close friend of 2 years, who was the third roommate, had started to kind of take a toll. We weren't as close as before. I could really sense tension going on, and I didn't really know why. And it wasn't until the end of our 6 months with the three roommates that I found out that the crazy ex-roommate, I don't know really what to call her, so I'm just gonna call her crazy ex-roommate. I found out that she had been telling my close friend of 2 years a bunch of lies about me. So she was telling my friend that I had been stealing money from her. She was apparently telling her that I would like go into her room when she wasn't there and take her money, which apparently she just had a bunch of cash sitting around in her bedroom. I don't know, but she said that I had been stealing that money, and that's why she wasn't able to come up with rent sometimes. And that really makes absolutely no sense, because I had a full-time job, I was making good money, I was making rent every single month. Why would I be stealing her money? I mean, in the end, it would have just been affecting me, because my roommate wouldn't have been able to pay for her monthly rent. And it really frustrated me that my close friend of 2 years believed our crazy ex-roommate, and that she wouldn't have realized there's absolutely no reason that Esperanza would be stealing our roommate's money. I mean, it didn't make any sense at all. And unfortunately, my close friend of 2 years was also very very gullible and easily manipulated, and that's why she was believing all these lies. So the crazy ex-roommate was also telling my close friend of 2 years that I was jealous of her and that I wasn't a good friend to her, and apparently like anything that I did, she would be telling my close friend of 2 years that I wasn't a good friend to her, which made no sense, because I was literally such a good friend to both of them. I've always been the kind of friend that goes like over the top to be helpful and nice and a good friend. So it really didn't make any sense why my close friend of 2 years was believing her. The only thing after all these years that I can really think is that my friend was just really gullible. And also, like, to be fair, this crazy ex-roommate was also fooling me. Like, I was literally fooled the whole time, and it wasn't until the time that she moved out that I started to realize and put two and two together. And it really wasn't until I talked to my close friend of 2 years that I started to realize what had been going on the whole time. I mean, this girl was just poisonous, basically. So we'd all signed on for a 6-month lease, and the crazy ex-roommate ended up bailing before the 6 months was up. So my other roommate, the close friend, and I had to pick up the remaining balance, and then my close friend ended up moving out as well. So by this time, our friendship had really been kind of ruined by everything that had gone on. And I know that there's like details that are missing, because it was so long ago now that I can't remember everything. But all the stuff that had been going on kind of just like took such a toll on our friendship, and it was kind of ruined at this point. And we did end up making up, but I think it just had taken such a toll on our friendship that a few weeks later we ended up, I guess, having a falling out, and we've never talked since then. So unfortunately, I lost that friendship over all of like the crazy lies and stuff that had been going on. So that roommate moved out as well, the close friend, and I ended up being in this 3-bedroom apartment by myself. And I think it took me a month before I was able to find other roommates. So I was kind of just like left screwed in this situation. So the craziest thing that she did that really affected me was that she told me that the guy that I was with at the time had an STD. This was all basically a lie that she had made up, but of course at the time I didn't know this. So she came to me saying that she heard from a friend who legitimately was like a friend who was in this group of people who associated with this guy. She told me that that girl told her, my crazy ex-roommate, that the guy that I was with had an STD that he'd gotten from who knows who. And it was a really serious STD. So of course when she told me this, I completely freaked out. I went into like a really bad place because I was scared. So I immediately went and had an STD test done, but I think it takes like a few days up to even a week to find out the results. So during this whole time, I literally was just like sobbing, absolutely devastated, freaking out because I was so scared that I was going to be stuck with this like horrible STD. And I even confronted the guy that I was with at the time, letting him know what the roommate had said. And I didn't even say that it was her. I told him that I heard it from somebody else, and he told me that it wasn't true. And he was obviously pretty upset that this was even going on because it wasn't true. So that really took a toll on our relationship. And then it wasn't until a few days later that I got the results back. And when I got the results back, the person who was giving me the results wasn't my doctor. They were basically an assistant. So they told me that yes, I did have the STD, which it actually turns out that he had read the report wrong, if you can believe that. So he was wrong, and he gave me this devastating news, and I got off the phone, was literally panicking, freaking out. And then it wasn't until later that day that my actual doctor called me and told me that the results came back negative, I didn't have an STD, and that she was so sorry that this assistant gave me the wrong results. And I was so pissed off. Like, I couldn't even believe that this assistant called me and gave me this horrible news, because I literally could have gone the rest of my life. I mean, that's like exaggerating, but I could have like actually thought that I had this. And it was an awful, terrible, horrible experience. And what was worse than that was the fact that my crazy ex-roommate saw me crying every single day. And she saw what a toll it took on me and the relationship with the guy at the time. And she didn't even care. I mean, she literally let me believe that I had that, even though she knew that it was a lie that she made up. So it was just like so devastating to me, and I can't even believe that somebody would do that to somebody else. And clearly she had something wrong with her. I don't know if she was like a pathological liar, or if she has like a mental illness. I don't know, but she purposefully, throughout the whole time of living with us, did all of these things to me to hurt me. And it wasn't until the end of the 6-month lease that I finally talked to my friend and realized what had been going on this whole time. So she literally played us, and I honestly can't even believe that she got away with it. And at the end of it all, I never confronted her because I just didn't want to have that kind of drama. I just decided to write her out of my friendship, and I basically had to accept the fact that my friendship with my close friend of 2 years was pretty much over because she played a part in it too, which is really unfortunate. And overall, it was just a terrible experience. I never after that experience, I didn't want to have roommates again, and it took me a long time before I was able to accept new female friendships into my life because of the terrible way that my friendships ended with these two roommates. I want to be able to tell you guys to be aware of red flags like this that might come up with a friendship or a roommate, and try to either confront the situations when they happen or just get out of like the friendship or the relationship if you realize those things. Unfortunately, in my case, I didn't confront her about the things that I knew that she was doing that was wrong, and then I also just had no idea of the extent of the lies and the webs that she was casting. So unfortunately for me, it was something that I probably could have avoided, but it was just a really difficult situation. So I just want you guys to be aware of the fact that there are people out there like that. So really be careful of people that you decide to bring into your life as a friendship or a roommate. And if you start noticing signs like this, like weird things going on, probably try to get out of it. So thanks guys for listening to the story. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you can learn from it. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you guys aren't subscribed already, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button. I definitely have had some pretty crazy experiences in my life, and I do want to share more videos with you guys about being bullied and also the toxic relationship that I was in at that time. So hopefully I'll be able to create videos like that in the future. Right now, it's still kind of hard for me to really figure out like how to express those experiences that I've been through in my life. It took me like a while to even get to the point where I wanted to share this video. I think it's really important to share these kind of experiences with you guys so that you can hopefully learn from them and also just better understand me and what has kind of formed me into the person that I am today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!